Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and you know what time it is. It is 9 a.m. Eastern, and even though it is Christmas Eve, it is still time for Sales Logic. I am hanging out here in this cold weather most of us in the United States are experiencing with my partner, Mark Hunter.
Hey, you know what? It's really about 70 degrees here. It's probably about 70 degrees for you indoors, right?
Indoors, right.
Hey, we've got a great show. We're going to talk about the power of an effective sales strategy. We've got a great question that comes in from a sales manager with a fintech company in London. And then we're going to talk about kind of a book that's been around for a while. I love it, Chet Holmes' book. And of course, a lightning round, top 10 ways to know your sales strategy is effective. So, hey, it's going to be a good show. We got to get moving, right?
That's right. Let's dive in.
Prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Hey, this is Sales Logic, and the power of scheduling automation has never been more important than it is today. Your sales team needs a solution to easily meet with prospects at the right time every time. With Calendly, you can turn more meetings into revenue, accelerate your sales cycle, and increase your win rate when you use Calendly to automate your scheduling. Finish the year strong and request a demo of Calendly today. Hey, the link is in the show notes. Okay, Mayor, why don't you tell the audience kind of how the show works?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, schedule a little bit of time. There's still time. I don't know what you're doing next week, but it's a great demo week and you should check out Calendly. All right. Every week, Mark and I come to you talking about one of our favorite topics, and that is sales. Merry Christmas, Jack Hubbard. So glad you are here. We start the show off with a question from you, the audience. So if you ever want to participate in Sales Logic, jump into the chat here or go to saleslogicpodcast.com and put your questions in there. We cover a hot topic, recommend a book, and because we want you to get return on investment, you leave with a lightning round. So what's on board for today, Mark?
Yeah, what's on top? Okay, the topic is going to be the power of an effective sales strategy. The question comes from Igor in London. He says, I may be a little late to ask this, but I'm a new sales manager. Well, I've been here for 6 months for a fintech startup. Hey, fintech startup, you've been there for 5 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Looking at our aggressive sales goals for 23, really look at your aggressive sales goals for the first quarter, the challenging marketplace and changing landscape. What about our sales strategies need to change?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And Igor, you might be a little bit late, but I'm glad you're asking this question in 2022, because you've got about one more week to go in there, do a little bit of investigating and get ready to kick off 2023. Your sales strategy does need to change for 2023. Now, not all of it, but you probably need to begin with a good assessment, getting the team together, just having a meeting and really getting the ego out of the way and ask yourself what really worked last year, what brought us business, who was our ideal client, where did we go deep, where was price not an issue, where did deals close more easily, where did the referrals come from. Understand first what's working in the sales process before you change anything in the sales process.
Hey, so good. And I'll tell you what, in fintech, really in startup world, and really applies to everybody today, right now you got to be focused on how do you shorten the sales cycle. Now, here's why. We're in a volatile market. Okay, now, Mayor would use a different word. I just say we're going sideways with the economy. And this means decisions are going to be made at different levels, at different criteria, and the rules are going to change. You have got to shorten the sales cycle. What does that mean? You've got to simplify the service. simplify whatever it is that you're selling, and focus in on your customer base as tight as possible. That's where you got to be. Don't try to, this is not the time to boil the ocean. Startups love to try to go out and boil the ocean. Don't do it. Look at what happened to a certain fintech company, well, a crypto company. Well, we won't go down that path.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to talk about the crypto company, I'm assuming, Igor, you know what you're doing and the product that you're selling. But the other thing, I've been advising all of my clients this year that are in sales that in 2023, you better get some time on the calendar with the CEO. Budgets are going to get cut this year for sure. I mean, they're going to. Even, I wrote about this the other day and I said, I will say we're headed towards recession. Mark will say we're going sideways. However you want to identify that. The point is the media has determined that we are going towards, they have planted the seed. You cannot talk to a CEO right now who is not worried about inflation and a shifting and a challenging marketplace. That means that every expense is going to have to re-win its way back onto the balance sheet and the profit and loss. You better get a meeting with a CEO, because if they don't know who you are, they're going to cut you out of the budget.
It truly is. And I love what Larry Levine has jumped in and said, where he says, simplify to multiply. I love that, because here's the whole thing. Cash flow is more important than ever. Debt to equity, incredibly important. So you've got to be sitting there asking yourself, how do I reframe my proposition to be as oriented towards generating positive cash flow as rapidly as possible? And again, this comes back to this whole thing that you simplify. You simplify what it is that you're doing. Now, where do you start with this? This again comes back to what Mayor said right up front. Who are your existing customers? What are they telling you? Because again, if you can't get laser focused in on your existing customers in terms of finding additional ways to create more value for them, they're your laboratory that's going to take you to new customers.
Well said.
So if you can't do it with existing customers, you're toast.
Yeah. Igor, you also need to go in and get gut-wrenchingly honest about what didn't work in 2022. We don't like to admit it, but as salespeople, we waste a lot of time. We make howdy-doody calls. We go to networking events that are worthless. We go to a trade show and don't work the room. We don't follow up on leads to the level that we need to follow up on leads. We maybe pitch before we understand the value we can bring to the table. So really have the team roll up their sleeves and get honest about where they didn't make movement and what about that needs to change in the process this year.
I like that, because it comes down to, you can be busy, but are you productive? Mm-hmm. The measurement for productive is, are you generating revenue? Are you generating revenue for your company? And take a look at each one of your activities. But this is part of it. If you're going to build an effective sales strategy, you got to look at every element of what it is that you do. And ask yourself, is this generating revenue? What value does this bring? And if it isn't, get it off the table, because it's just an activity that's taking away time that could be better invested in something else. That's why I harp on networking a lot, because networking it's an activity, but too many times the productivity piece of it just doesn't happen. It's way too far down the road. And again, go back to what we talked about. Hey, we're in this weird economy. You got to be able to shorten the process on everything.
Yeah, I would also say that you need to reposition your product in the marketplace for 2023. I mean, Mark alluded to this when he talked about the fact that your existing customers are your laboratory. But I was listening to my customers with this year. And last year, for the most part, when people called me for a speaking engagement or they called me for a training, they were just looking for an opportunity to get people together, to get people excited, to get people motivated, and to get them to take action. The economy was bustling and was hot last year, and we were still in this euphoria of getting back together. So the energy that I brought into the meeting, the chance minutes that I got people to engage with one another, that's what I was selling. This year, I haven't spoken to one single meeting planner that says people are worried that, people won't spend money to come to meetings. If they spend money to come to meetings, they're going to want concrete answers like how to deal with a softening economy, how to deal with pressure on cost structures, how to deal with, still a supply chain that seems to get positive, then boomerang right back into a challenge. So I have to be offering how I'm positioning what I sell needs to be responding to what my customer is telling me the problem is.
And key is listening to what your customers are telling you. Meredith, you mentioned the word supply chain, and I was struck by something I saw yesterday. The Wall Street Journal has a major article on how the supply chain has balanced itself out. Everything is good, very few issues. I go to CNBC.com, and there's a survey out that says from supply chain managers that they don't expect the supply chain to really be balanced until 2024. Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, guess what? Both could be right, but it depends upon the eyes of the beholder. And that's where you got to get in front of your customers. And Igor, I'll tell you what, be very careful at getting caught up in the emotional drama that your salespeople bring to the table. When things start getting weird, it is amazing how drama enters the sales meeting, right? Right? I mean, how many times have you seen that, Meredith? I mean, we've all, and what happens is salespeople begin bringing in a tremendous amount of assumptions, bad assumptions. Igor, you got to separate the fact. This is what really separates an effective sales strategy from just a boring one or a broken one.
Yeah, I would also say that you need to work on the mindset of your team, kind of to what Mark was just talking there, is that a bad economy for salespeople tends to be the reason that salespeople don't sell as strongly or as well as they can sell. But the truth is, a bad economy is basically your greatest opportunity. It'll thin the herd. Your competitors will not come out of the woodwork like they've come out, especially in the fintech world. You're going to see a lot pull back. The other is that your customers need you now more than ever, but your salespeople have got to be skilled at not responding to the need of the customer, but proactively identifying the need of the customer. Yeah. That is a big shift.
Big shift. And again, something else here. Igor, you're in fintech, and anybody listening to this, pay attention to this simple comment here that I'm about to make. Where is your industry in the life cycle? Jack Hubbard's jumped back in. He's been in community banking for years. It's a very stable, mature industry. Fintech is brand new. So you've got people who are dabbling in it, dabbling in, and dabbling out. So again, this is going to impact decision-making. This is going to impact resources. This is going to impact where people decide to put money. What's very interesting is when money is going free. Hey, remember just a year ago when interest rates were as low as they were, it was amazing. You could get funding for any project imaginable. So people were much more risk-oriented. As interest rates, the cost of money has gone up. It is amazing how there's a retraction on that. And people are far more conservative. So guess what? Again, you've got to make sure that your proposition reflects your role in the marketplace and your customer's perception of where the marketplace is going.
Yeah, I love what Jack here says. The key to sales success is targeting, focusing, and doing the right activities right. I mean, Igor, that's fantastic advice right there from Jack. You have to be clear on what activities are working, and is your team skilled to do those activities. And I think in 2023, you're going to need to review your sales process at least quarterly. Right now, most economists are calling for the fact that the first 2 quarters won't be too challenging. The last 2 will probably be very challenging. And therefore, what worked in quarter 1 and quarter 2 won't necessarily work in quarter 3 and 4.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We're getting some great comments coming in. And I'll tell you what, Larry jumps in with, the activities you can control. Right. You got to measure what you can control be aware of what you can't control, but you got to focus because it's what you can control. Here's something interesting. When we look at an effective sales strategy, I'm always one to look at the long game. I've always been a long-term player. But I do believe right now, when you develop an effective sales strategy, you have to be prepared to make shifts, because what Meridith raised, I agree, the second half of the year is going to be different than the first half of the year. You're going to have to be prepared that there may be minor shifts, not major shifts, just minor shifts as to where you allocate resources in the second half of the year. And this is for anybody. What's the power of an effective sales strategy is one that you can adapt to what's happening in the marketplace. But here's the challenge. You don't want to be reacting to the marketplace. You want to be acting to the marketplace. In other words, being proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Mark Bregman has said here. And Igor, this is probably, I'm a little embarrassed that Mark and I missed it, but it's probably the biggest part of the sales strategy you need to look at. A bad economy doesn't impact everyone negatively. They're such a good point, Mark, that, look at who you're calling on from a fintech perspective and who's still going to have money to spend, who's going to have budget. There is, even in a bad economy, this new omnibus bill, regardless of how you think about it, is going to flood a lot of money into the United States market in certain areas. You're probably going to want to position yourself in at least some markets that don't abandon your customers who are struggling, but you may want to balance that out. I also want to say, I love that Jack weighed in here with community banking versus fintech. One of the challenges of fintech is you've got to play a long game, but you've got investors that are forcing you to play a short game. You don't have the luxury of saying, we're not going to hit our numbers this quarter. We're not going to hit our numbers 6 months. So you have to figure out how to get that sales strategy right so that it is producing the short-term numbers that you need, but positioning your fintech to move out of startup and into truly a company with sustainability that can sell.
Okay, there's several pieces here that I love. I love this comment by Mark. A bad economy, doesn't impact everyone. This is why I don't use that R word. That's why I say it's sideways, because there's always opportunities out there. It's a matter of shifting and finding where you're at. Here's something. When you look at an effective sales strategy, if you are now, Igor, this may not affect you, but it may affect your boss. You have to look at a triangle. And there are 3 points on a triangle. 1 point is your investor. Second point is the marketplace. And the third point are your specific customers. And you've got to address, how does this effective sales strategy going to meet the needs of all three of those? Because if I can't meet the needs of all three of those, because again, the marketplace may be here, but my investors may be demanding different insights. My customers might be. See, this is a key thing. You truly are, when you develop an effective sales strategy, throwing a football through a tire. And guess what? It's moving. But when you do it right, it works. We got a lot of great comments coming in, but man, time is like whipping by. Hey, before we go to the book and so forth, let's get some thoughts out on the power of an effective strategy.
Yeah. So, to me, strategy is everything. And, I think the funny thing about salespeople is that I know when I started out as one, it's like, I don't need a strategy. I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to talk to people. But if you don't understand, it is, especially when we move into a marketplace like 2023, managing your time is everything. I always say to my clients, the most expensive thing you ever do is make a sales call. You physically get up out of your office, or you do it virtually now. You're trying to get through a door. There's so much effort with no return on investment at the beginning. So if you aim at the right target, your chance not only of a quicker return on investment, but a stronger return on investment is so much better. And you can't do that without a strategy.
The lack of an effective sales strategy is the reason I got fired from my first 2 sales jobs. Okay? So there you go. Living proof right there. Because here's the whole thing. There was no strategy in terms of how I should go to the market, how I should go to my customers. It was just go out and get some business wherever you can find. But the problem is it does not create a sustainable business proposition. And ultimately, what is a sales strategy doing? It's priming the pump for the rest of the organization. So when the sales strategy is wrong, so again, this comes back to I got to understand what can my organization handle, what can it not handle. And again, when we get into this sideways, see, I'm using that word again, sideways economy, there are going to be salespeople that are going to reach for the fence. They're going to say, "Oh, we can do this, we can do this." And Igor and every sales manager out there, an effective sales strategy is one where you stay focused on the sales strategy. Don't allow your salespeople to just go saying, "Oh, I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try that." No. More than ever, sales leaders, sales managers, you need to lead your team down the specific path you want them to be going.
Yeah, I bet Jack Hubbard can really attest to this. The biggest mistake that I have seen companies make in not having a sales strategy, and banks are notorious for this, is that you hire a really amazing salesperson from another financial institution or another company. And Igor, you're probably going to be growing your sales team. And a really great sales team at one company doesn't translate to a really great salesperson at another company unless you aim them at the right target and tell them how to be successful. I sold for Bank of America versus selling for a community bank. It's a completely different process. And I won't feel the pain until I'm trying to get a loan through underwriting. And underwriting is like, "What are you doing bringing me this deal?" I get frustrated and I quit. Versus if you show me how to sell in your organization, I'm going to be successful.
And that same thing applies to OEM.
Yeah.
It applies to every other sector out there. And again, this is what happens. People start getting sideways. Okay, hey, time is like moving by. Before we tell you about the book we think you should read, let me remind you about Calendly. Hey, accelerate your sales cycle and increase your win rate when you use Calendly to automate scheduling. It's the tool we use to manage our work days and achieve our sales goals. Okay, the book. I'm glad. Hey, you picked this book out. I love it. The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
Yeah, I picked it out because I was cleaning out a closet, which is what you do over the holidays, right? And I was going through, I must have 1,000 books in there. And I was going through and looking at what I was going to reread for 2023. And I just think Chet's book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, it speaks for itself. It is literally how to build a machine that produces sales consistently, which is the power word, over and over again.
And there's so much in that book. And of course, it was written years ago. It's easy to pass it by. But let me tell you something. There's so many things about the sales process that just does not change. And I love that book. It's interesting. He passed away now almost 10 years ago.
I know.
Which is really, really kind of amazing. Anyway, hey, pick up the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. Okay, are you ready for the lightning round, the hot topic? Are you ready?
I am, but I just want to weigh in on these two comments here. Gregory, I love what you're saying. Expansion of prospecting methods and alternative marketing strategies is key. Right now, I am smack in the middle of a snail mail campaign. I am doing it the old-fashioned way. Because you're right, if I'm going to get in front of people, I'm going to have to use all types of alternative. And Dr. Mohammed Nesser, I love what you said here. Key, boy, take this away. Logic in 2020 is to invest in customer pain. You solve the problem. I don't care what the marketplace does. They are going to spend money with you. All right, Mark.
And then it starts by by taking the time to listen to the customer. Yeah, great comments coming in this morning. And man, I feel like we could stay on this subject for 2 hours. But
I know.
We gotta be okay. Top 10 ways to know your sales strategy is effective. Go.
Number 1, you're getting results.
2, you're shortening the sales cycle.
Number 3, you're getting to the decision maker. People are responding.
Number 4, you understand the cost of customer acquisition.
Yeah. Number 5, your referrals are increasing.
Number 6, your existing customers are coming back time and time again.
Number 7, You're
I don't know.
yeah, it's something like that. You're exceeding goals. Like every month you come in there, and the behaviors are positioning your team to exceed goals.
Number 8, you're actually lowering your COGS, your cost of goods sold, because your salary and general administration expenses are decreasing, and it's flowing through to the manufacturing process or whatever it is that you provide.
Your number 9, your sales team is motivated, excited, energetic, and can't wait to get out the door and sell more.
Number 10, you have found a sales process that is now scalable. An effective sales process is one that is both scalable and sustainable. Wow, we blasted through those 10 fast,
Yeah.
didn't we? Wow. Hey, before we shut the show down, you got to add some more comments. That was fast. That was quick. Anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to say that, this has been an amazing year. When we come to you next year, it'll be the last show of 2022. I know Mark and I get so much value from doing this show, and the audience is truly the best part. I learn, even though we're the hosts of this show, I learn so much from our amazing audience, and I'm excited with the things that I get to put into place next year.
I echo that, because again, you and I, we bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and it challenges our thinking. So it's great. Hey, with that, we want to say a huge thank you to Calendly for helping us managing our scheduling needs through automation for their sponsorship of the Sales Logic podcast. Be sure to visit the link in our show notes and request a demo of Calendly today. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. And if you like, hey, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend, because it's how we grow. Hey, leave a review. We really need some more reviews, would you? So, hey, with that, we want to say Sales Logic, our objective is to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage,
and the sale becomes logical.
All right, we will be here New Year's Eve talking about what you need to do to sell successfully in 2023. Mark and I also have a lot of exciting new things coming in 2023. We'll be sharing some of those, but come ready for your questions, your comments, and together we're going to find a way to really sell more successfully and make 2023 our best year on record. Now, go enjoy your family, friends, don't eat too much, and we'll see you back here next week. Sell something today.